My wife cheated with her ex, demanded half my money, so I disappeared completely. There's a moment in every disaster when you realize the ground beneath you isn't solid anymore. For some people, it's a doctor delivering bad news. For others, it's a phone call in the middle of the night. For me, it was a single sentence delivered across a lawyer's mahogany desk. My client is seeking half of all marital assets, including the business you built before the marriage. I'm Nathan. Or at least I was Nathan. That name, that identity, that entire life. It's all gone now. Burned to the ground and scattered to the wind. Let me take you back to the beginning. I grew up poor in eastern Washington. Not the picturesque poor that makes for heartwarming stories. The real kind, where you check under couch cushions for gas money and your mom cries quietly when she thinks you can't hear. My dad left when I was 7. My mom worked double shifts at a diner until her feet gave out. I learned early that the world doesn't owe you anything, and if you want something, you'd better build it yourself. So I built. Dropped out of community college when I realized I was learning more from YouTube tutorials than from my professors. Taught myself coding, then web development, then app architecture. Worked 90-hour weeks for years, sleeping on friends' couches, eating ramen, saying no to everything that cost money. By the time I was 28, I'd started a software company that was actually making money. By 30, I'd sold my first startup for enough to never worry about couch cushion money again. That's when I met Vanessa. She was 32, divorced, with the kind of polished elegance that screamed old money even though I'd later learn her family had none. We met at a charity gala, one of those events I only attended because my business partner insisted it was good for networking. She wore a red dress that caught the light every time she moved. She laughed at my jokes, touched my arm when she talked, made me feel like the only person in a room full of Seattle's elite. "We should do this again," she said at the end of the night, pressing her number into my hand. I was hooked. The courtship was whirlwind. 6 months of dinners and weekends and her slowly infiltrating every corner of my life. She quit her job as a marketing consultant. "To focus on us," she said. She moved into my condo, then suggested we buy a house together. She talked about our future, our family, our legacy. "You've worked so hard," she told me, curled against my chest. "You deserve someone who appreciates what you've built. Someone who'll be there for you." I believed her. The wedding was small but elegant. 60 guests, a vineyard in Woodinville, a string quartet playing as she walked down the aisle. Her parents cried. My mom cried. I cried. Everyone said we were perfect together. The first year was good. Really good. We traveled Paris, Tokyo, Santorini. We talked about kids, about buying a vacation home, about all the things we'd do together. She redecorated the house, filled it with art and plants and the warm clutter of shared life. I kept building. My second company was taking off, a SaaS platform that was attracting serious investor interest. I was working long hours again, but Vanessa seemed supportive. "You're doing this for us," she said. "For our future." I thought she meant it. The cracks started in year 2. She'd always had male friends. She was social, charismatic, the kind of person who collected people like souvenirs. I didn't think much of it. But there was one friend who came up more than others. Derek, her ex-husband. "He's just part of my life," she said when I asked about their frequent lunches. "We were together for 8 years. You can't just erase that history." "I'm not asking you to erase it. I'm just noticing that you see him a lot. Because we're friends, Nathan. Is that a problem?" I didn't want it to be a problem. I didn't want to be the jealous husband, the controlling partner, the guy who couldn't handle his wife having male friends. So I backed off. Mistake number 1. The signs multiplied after that. Late nights that she explained away as drinks with girlfriends. Weekends when she was too tired for plans we'd made. Her phone always face down, always in her hand, always angled away from me. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that marriage meant trust. I told myself everything was fine. Mistake number 2. The discovery happened on a Tuesday. I'd come home early from work. Server issues that got resolved faster than expected. Vanessa's car was in the driveway, which was unusual for 3 p.m. I walked in quietly, not wanting to disturb her if she was napping. I heard noises from upstairs. Not napping noises. My blood went cold. My feet carried me up the stairs, down the hall, to the bedroom door that was slightly ajar. I pushed it open. The scene that greeted me is burned into my memory like a photograph. Vanessa, naked, tangled in our sheets. A man beside her, Derek, her ex-husband, also naked, also tangled. Both frozen in that terrible moment of discovery. Nathan, Vanessa breathed. This isn't. I didn't let her finish. I turned around, walked downstairs, out the front door, and sat in my car for 20 minutes without starting the engine. When I finally drove away, I had no idea where I was going. Just away. Away from the house. Away from the betrayal. Away from the life I'd thought we were building. I stayed at a hotel that night. Then another. Then a friend's guest room. I couldn't go back to that house, couldn't walk through those rooms, couldn't sleep in that bed. Vanessa called, texted, left voicemails that ranged from apologetic to defensive to angry. I'm sorry you had to see that. It didn't mean anything. Derek and I have history, you knew that. You're never home anyway. This is your fault as much as mine. The last one was the one that broke something in me. This is your fault. My fault. Because I worked too much. Because I wasn't present enough. Because I didn't give her the attention she deserved. I stopped answering after that. A week later, I came home, to the house, our house, to pack some things and figure out next steps. Vanessa was there, waiting. We need to talk, she said. There's nothing to talk about. I'm filing for divorce. Her expression shifted. Something hardened behind her eyes. Fine. But if you're filing for divorce, then we need to talk about assets. I stared at her. Assets? I've been your wife for 2 years. I've supported you, helped you build your business, created a home for us. I'm entitled to half of everything. Half of Vanessa. I had the business before I met you. The house was mine before the wedding. I have a prenup. She smiled. It was not a kind smile. That prenup was signed under duress. My lawyer says it won't hold up. And even if it does, I'm entitled to appreciation of assets during the marriage. Your company has tripled in value since we got married. That's community property. I felt the world tilt. You're serious. I'm very serious. You want a divorce? Fine. But I'm not walking away with nothing. I gave you 2 years of my life. I want what I deserve. What I deserve. The woman who'd just been caught in my bed with her ex-husband was talking about what she deserved. I need to think, I said. You do that. But Nathan, my lawyer is very good. Very aggressive. If you try to hide assets or drag this out, she will destroy you. I packed a bag and left. That night, sitting in my friend's guest room, staring at the ceiling, I made a decision. If Vanessa wanted to play hardball, fine. But I wasn't going to play by her rules. I wasn't going to spend years in court watching lawyers devour everything I'd built. I wasn't going to hand over half my life's work to someone who'd betrayed me and then blamed me for it. I was going to disappear. The first rule of vanishing. You don't tell anyone. Not your best friend. Not your mother. Not the one person you trust with your life. Because secrets spread, and once a secret is out, it's not a secret anymore. I started planning the day after Vanessa's threat. My background gave me an advantage. Years of coding, of systems thinking, of understanding how data moves and where it lives. I knew that disappearing wasn't about running away, it was about erasure. Removing myself from every system, every database, every digital footprint that connected Nathan to the life I'd lived. Step 1, the business. I'd structured my company carefully when I started it. Multiple LLCs, holding companies, shell entities that made ownership murky. It wasn't for tax evasion, it was for protection. If someone sued, they'd have a hard time untangling who owned what. That structure now became my escape route. I spent 2 weeks quietly transferring assets. Not hiding them, that would be illegal, and I wasn't willing to cross that line. But restructuring them in ways that made them harder to seize. Putting intellectual property into trusts. Moving liquid assets to accounts Vanessa didn't know existed. My lawyer, a man named Cohen who'd represented me for years, noticed the activity. Nathan, what's going on? These transfers are unusual. I'm reorganizing, preparing for the divorce. He studied me over his reading glasses. You know that if you try to hide assets, the court will. I'm not hiding anything. I'm protecting what's mine within the bounds of the law. There's a difference. He didn't look convinced, but he didn't push. Lawyers bill by the hour. They don't get paid to moralize. Step 2, the money. I'd always been careful with finances. Multiple accounts, multiple banks, a safety deposit box with cash that wasn't in any system. Not because I was paranoid, because I'd grown up poor and never fully trusted that the money wouldn't disappear. That cash became my seed fund. $80,000 in hundreds, packed into a fireproof bag that fit in a duffel. I also started liquidating things that could be traced. Stocks, bonds, retirement accounts converted to assets that could move. Not all at once, that would raise red flags. Slowly, carefully, over weeks. Step 3, the identity. This was the hardest part. You can't just walk into the DMV and get a new name. But you can, over time, create the conditions for a new identity to exist. I started with small things. A post office box in a different city, rented with cash. Prepaid phone, also cash. An email address that wasn't connected to my name. I researched countries with loose banking laws, places where cash could become accounts without too many questions. I read forums, the kind that exist in the dark corners of the internet, frequented by people who've learned that sometimes the system isn't fair and you have to build your own. Step 4, the timeline. Vanessa's lawyer was pushing for a quick resolution. Mediation was scheduled for 6 weeks out. If we couldn't settle, it would go to court. 6 weeks. That was my window. I worked like I'd never worked before. 12, 14, 16 hours a day, not on my company, but on my exit. Every night after pretending to work, I'd plan, research, prepare. My friend Marcus, whose guest room I was still occupying, noticed I was distracted. You okay, man? You seem somewhere else. Divorce stuff. It's a lot. He nodded, sympathetic. If you need to talk. Thanks. I know. I hated lying to him. Marcus had been my friend since college, had seen me through startups and failures and the long climb to success. But I couldn't tell him, couldn't tell anyone. The closer I got to my deadline, the more surreal everything felt. I'd have dinner with friends, laugh at their jokes, ask about their lives, all while knowing I'd never see them again. I'd talk to my mom on the phone, hear her worry about the divorce, reassure her that everything would be okay, knowing that okay meant gone. The guilt was crushing, but the alternative, staying, fighting, watching Vanessa take everything, was worse. 3 weeks before mediation, I put the final pieces in place. I'd chosen a destination, a small country in Central America that didn't have an extradition treaty with the U.S. Not because I was a criminal, I wasn't, but because I wanted to be somewhere that didn't automatically cooperate with American legal requests. I'd established a new identity, Michael Chun, not completely fake. I'd found a birth certificate for a Michael Chun who died as an infant, a common method for creating a new identity if you knew where to look. Passport, driver's license, credit cards, all in Michael's name, all backed by enough documentation to pass casual inspection. I'd moved money, $350,000 in accounts that couldn't be traced to Nathan. More in assets that could be liquidated later. Enough to live on for years if I was careful. And I'd written letters. The hardest part. Letters to my mom, to Marcus, to a few others I couldn't bear to leave without explanation. Not telling them where I was going, that would defeat the purpose. But telling them why. Telling them I loved them. Telling them I'd find a way to reach out someday, when it was safe. The night before I left, I sat in Marcus's guest room and thought about everything I was leaving behind. The company I'd built from nothing. The friends who'd supported me. The city I'd called home for 15 years. My mom, who'd sacrificed everything to raise me and deserved better than a son who disappeared. But I also thought about Vanessa. About her in my bed with another man. About her cold eyes as she told me she'd take half of everything. About the years of work she'd strip away without a second thought. I couldn't let that happen. I wouldn't. At 4 a.m., I packed my duffel, clothes, cash, documents, a laptop. I left the letters on the bed, addressed and stamped. I walked out of Marcus's house, got in a rental car I'd booked under Michael Chen's name, and drove south. By noon, I was across the border into Mexico. By evening, I was on a flight to a country I'd never visited, with a passport that said I was someone else. Nathan was gone. Michael had arrived. The first month was pure survival. I'd landed in a small coastal town, touristy enough to have English speakers, remote enough that no one asked questions. I rented a furnished apartment with cash, paid 6 months up front, and told the landlord my name was Michael and I was a writer looking for inspiration. He didn't care. Landlords never care when you pay in advance. I spent those first weeks in a fog, learning the rhythms of the town, the basics of the language, the layout of streets and markets and cafes. I'd walk for hours, just moving, trying to process the enormity of what I'd done. I'd left everything. My company, my friends, my mother. The life I'd spent 15 years building. All of it abandoned because one woman decided she wanted half. The rage came in waves. So did the grief. So did the doubt. Was I crazy? Was I overreacting? Should I have stayed and fought? But then I'd think about Vanessa's face as she threatened me. The cold calculation behind her eyes. The way she'd shifted from wife to adversary in a single conversation. That woman would have taken everything. She would have bled me dry in court, dragged the process out for years, made my life a living hell. I couldn't have survived that. Not emotionally, not financially, not in any way that mattered. So I stayed. And I waited. Back in Seattle, the shit was hitting the fan. I know this because I'd set up alerts, Google News searches for my name, my company's name, anything that might tell me what was happening. I checked them from internet cafes using cash, never the same place twice. The first article appeared 3 days after I left. Seattle tech founder missing amid divorce proceedings. I read it in a cramped cafe, my heart pounding. The article was short, just the basics. Nathan Chen, 35, founder of successful software company, reported missing by his wife Vanessa Chen. Police were investigating. No signs of foul play. Friends and family concerned. Vanessa had reported me missing. Of course she had. It made her look like the worried wife, not the cheating soon-to-be ex who'd threatened to destroy me. The comments section was a dumpster fire. Half the people thought I'd killed myself. The other half thought I'd run off with another woman. No one guessed the truth. The next week, the story grew. Missing tech founder's wife pleads for information. There she was on the news, tearful and beautiful, begging me to come home. Nathan, if you're out there, please know that I love you. Whatever problems we were having, we can work through them. Just come home. I watched the video 3 times, searching her face for any sign of genuine emotion. I didn't find any, just performance, just calculation. My phone, the one connected to my old life, was off and buried in a drawer. But I knew it would be full of messages. Vanessa, my mom, Marcus, the police, all wondering where I was, what had happened, why I disappeared. I wanted to call my mom. God, I wanted to call my mom. But I couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The story escalated. Police suspect foul play in tech founder's disappearance. This was new. Someone, probably Vanessa, had convinced them something was wrong. They were looking into my financial records, my communications, my last known movements. I felt a chill reading that. If they looked too hard, they might find the transfers. The restructuring. The slow bleed of assets into places they couldn't follow. But I'd been careful. Everything was legal, just complicated. If they asked, my lawyer could explain I was reorganizing for the divorce. Nothing criminal. Nothing suspicious. Unless they dug deeper. Unless they found Michael Chen. The second month I moved. The coastal town was too small, too noticeable. A foreigner alone draws attention. I needed somewhere bigger, more anonymous. I chose a city, medium-sized, touristy but not overwhelmed, with enough expats that one more wouldn't stand out. I rented another apartment, cash again, and started building a life. I grew a beard. Let my hair get longer. Started wearing glasses I didn't need. Small changes that added up to someone who looked vaguely like Nathan but not enough to trigger recognition. I got a job under the table cash at a bar owned by an American expat. He didn't ask questions. Expats never do. The work was grounding. Pouring drinks, wiping counters, listening to tourists talk about their problems. It was so far from my old life, boardrooms and investors and million-dollar deals, that it felt almost like therapy. At night, I'd check the news. Search for missing tech founder continues. Wife hires private investigator to find husband. Company board moves to replace missing founder. That last one hurt. My company, the thing I'd built from nothing, was moving on without me. I couldn't blame them, they had a business to run. But it still felt like a death. Vanessa's interviews continued. She'd mastered the role of grieving wife. The trembling voice, the tears at just the right moments, the pleas for my safe return. She was good. Really good. I wondered if she'd found someone else to sleep with yet. Probably. 6 months in, the news died down. The story stopped being new. The police moved on to other cases. The private investigator, if there ever was one, gave up. Vanessa's interviews stopped appearing. I was no longer missing. I was just gone. I started to breathe. A year after I disappeared, I was almost someone else. Michael Chin had a life now. A small apartment, a regular job, a few friends who knew him as the quiet American who kept to himself. He spoke passable Spanish, knew the best places to eat, had a favorite bench in the park where he read on Sunday afternoons. He also had money carefully managed, slowly grown. I'd found ways to access more of my assets without triggering alarms. Small transfers, hard to trace, moved through accounts that led nowhere. Not enough to make me rich, but enough to never worry. I thought about my old life less and less. When I did, it felt like watching a movie about someone else. Nathan was a character I used to play. Michael was real. But the past has a way of finding you. It happened on a Tuesday. I was at the bar, working my shift, when a woman sat down and ordered a drink. American, early 30s, with the tired look of someone traveling alone. Rough day, I asked, pouring her wine. You could say that. She sighed. Boyfriend drama. Thought a trip would clear my head. Where are you from? Seattle. You. The word hit like a slap. Seattle. Home. Originally? All over, I said. Haven't been back in a while. She nodded, accepting the vague answer. Tourists are used to vague answers from locals. We talked for a while, small talk, nothing deep. But something about her felt familiar. The way she moved her hands when she talked. The tilt of her head. Then she said a name that froze my blood. My cousin actually lives here. Well, not here, but somewhere in this country. He disappeared about a year ago. Total mystery. My aunt is still a mess about it. I kept my face neutral. That's rough. What happened to him? Nobody knows. He was going through a divorce, his wife was a piece of work, and then he just vanished. No note, no warning, nothing. The police looked for a while, but they never found anything. What was his name? Nathan. Nathan Chin. I gripped the bar towel so hard my knuckles went white. That's terrible, I managed. I'm sorry. She shrugged. I never met him. He's my aunt's stepson, complicated family stuff. But my aunt, she's never been the same. She still calls me sometimes. Asks if I've heard anything. Breaks my heart. I wanted to ask more. Wanted to know about my mom, about Marcus, about the life I'd left. But I couldn't. Any question would be suspicious. She's lucky to have you, I said instead. Family, who cares? Yeah. She finished her wine, paid in cash, and left with a smile. I watched her walk away, feeling like I'd been punched in the chest. That night I couldn't sleep. My mom was still suffering, still waiting, still hoping I'd come back. I told myself I was protecting her by leaving, that she'd understand someday. But sitting in my small apartment, thousands of miles from home, I wasn't so sure. The next week I made a decision. Couldn't go back. That would defeat everything. Vanessa would still be there, the divorce would still be pending, the legal battle would still be waiting. But I could reach out. Carefully. Anonymously. I wrote a letter to my mom. Dear Mom, I'm alive. I'm safe. I'm sorry I had to leave the way I did. I couldn't stay. Vanessa was going to take everything. and I couldn't let that happen. Not after everything I built. Not after everything you sacrificed to get me here. I can't tell you where I am. I can't tell you when I'll be back. But I'm okay. I have a life here, small but good. I think about you every day. Please don't try to find me. It would put me at risk, and it would put you at risk too. Just know that I love you. I always have. I always will. Your son. I mailed it from a different city with no return address. If my mom recognized my handwriting, she'd know it was real. If not, she'd think it was a cruel prank. I hoped she'd recognize it. Months passed. No response, no way to know if she'd gotten it. I told myself that was okay. Told myself that knowing she was alive was enough. But it wasn't. It would never be enough. 2 years after I disappeared, I got word through channels I'd established. A message, passed through intermediaries, from Marcus. Your mom got your letter. She's at peace now. Still misses you, but she knows you're alive. That's enough for her. Vanessa remarried. Some guy she met at a charity thing. The divorce was finalized in absentia. You're legally free. The company sold last year. Your share is in escrow, waiting for you if you ever come back. I don't know where you are, and I'm not asking. But I hope you're okay. I hope you found what you were looking for. Miss you, brother. I read the message 5 times. Vanessa remarried, of course she did. The company sold, I'd expected that. My mom at peace, that was the only part that mattered. I sat on my balcony, looking out at the city that had become home, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Lightness. The weight of guilt just a little bit lighter. I was free. Not just legally, emotionally. The past was finally behind me. Michael Chun smiled for the first time in a long time. 5 years after I disappeared, I'm sitting on a beach at sunset, watching the waves roll in. The bar job is long gone. I manage a small hotel now, legitimate work, legal residency, taxes paid. Michael Chun has a real life here, with real friends and real routines and a real future. I own the hotel. Bought it 2 years ago with money that can't be traced, from an elderly couple who wanted to retire. It's small, 12 rooms, a restaurant, a pool, but it's mine. I built this just like I built everything before. Just differently. The guests come and go. Americans, mostly, escaping winter or looking for adventure or running from their own problems. I recognize the look now, the one that says they're not just on vacation, they're in flight. I never ask. Everyone deserves their secrets. I think about Nathan sometimes. That other life, that other person. He feels like a stranger now. Someone I used to know, someone I watched in a movie. His concerns aren't mine. His fears aren't mine. His love, his loss, his betrayal. All of it faded to something that doesn't hurt anymore. But I think about my mom. She'd be in her 70s now. I wonder if she still checks the mail, hoping for another letter. I wonder if she tells people about her son who disappeared, about the mystery that never got solved. I wonder if she's okay. I've thought about reaching out again. But what would I say? Hi, Mom. I'm alive, still can't see you. Still can't explain. Still can't come home. That's not a gift. That's just more pain. So I stay silent. I stay gone. I stay Michael. The question that haunts me, the one that brought me here, is simple. Was I wrong? Vanessa wanted half of everything. Half of what I built before I met her. Half of the company I started when I was sleeping on couches and eating ramen. Half of the life I created through years of sacrifice and struggle. She wanted it because she was entitled, because she deserved it, because 2 years of marriage gave her the right to dismantle everything I'd done. I couldn't let that happen. So I ran. Not from responsibility. I left her everything we'd acquired together. The house, the cars, the joint accounts. I took only what was mine before the marriage, protected in ways she couldn't touch. By the law, she got her share. By any fair measure, she got more than she deserved. But I also left my mom, my friends, my life. I burned it all to the ground because one woman threatened to take what was mine. Was that strength or weakness? Was I protecting myself or running from a fight? Was I brave or cowardly? I still don't know. Here's what I do know. I'm at peace. Not happy, not exactly. Happiness is too simple a word for what I feel. But peaceful. Content. Settled into a life that fits, even if it's not the life I planned. I watch couples at my hotel sometimes. Newlyweds, honeymooners, people still in the first flush of love. They hold hands, whisper secrets, look at each other like they've discovered something no one else has. I don't feel bitter watching them, just distant, like they're speaking a language I used to know. Maybe I'll find that again someday. Maybe not. Either way, I'm okay. Vanessa got her money, I assume. The house, the assets, whatever the court awarded. She remarried quickly, which suggests she wasn't too broken up about losing me. I hope she's happy. I hope she got what she wanted. I hope she never thinks about me at all. My company's sold. I could claim my share if I wanted to. It's sitting in escrow, waiting for Nathan to reappear. But Nathan isn't coming back. And Michael doesn't need it. My mom. I don't know. I hope she's at peace too. I hope she forgives me. I hope she understands. The sunset is almost gone now. Just a sliver of orange on the horizon. Then nothing. The waves keep rolling, indifferent to human drama, indifferent to loss and love and the choices we make. I stand up, brush sand from my pants, and walk back toward the hotel. Toward the life I built from ashes. Toward the man I became when the man I was couldn't survive. Was I the asshole? Did I do the right thing? I'll never know. Maybe there is no right thing in situations like this. Maybe there's just survival and the choices we make to keep breathing, and the hope that someday the guilt will fade enough to let us sleep. Mine has faded. Not completely, it never will, but enough. The door Vanessa opened wasn't just an exit from our marriage. It was an exit from everything. From the life I'd built, the identity I'd created, the future I'd imagined. I walked through that door, and on the other side, I found something I never expected, myself. Not the self I was trying to be, not the self Vanessa wanted me to be, but the self that existed underneath all of it. The boy who grew up poor, who learned to survive, who built and lost and built again. He's still here, still surviving, still building. Michael Chin. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, when the hotel is empty and the sun is setting and the waves are rolling in, he remembers Nathan. Remembers the life he left, the people he loved, the mother who still waits for a son who can't come home. And he wonders, just for a moment, what might have been. Then he locks up, turns off the lights, and goes to bed. Tomorrow is another day, another guest, another sunset, another chance to be someone new. The door was open. He walked through, and he never looked back. That's it for today's stories. If you want to see more of the best threads Reddit has to offer, make Reddit Be Mine a part of your daily routine. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a heartbeat. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next thread.